So today I'm gonna be showing you how to use the sponge. I'm gonna explain some stuff first before let's talk about the sponge actually. So I'm pretty sure this part is mainly for curls. I don't ever use this spiky part of the sponge. If it comes with the sponge, then that's cool. I'm not gonna use it. I always use the flat side because I'm pretty sure the flat side is mainly for twists. And if you want semi-freeform locks, I imagine you're gonna want twist more, because however you choose to get locks, it just depends on you and your preferences, and also your hair type and porosity, hair porosity. You can look that up. I kind of don't remember enough about it to explain it to you, though I know enough about it myself. You could look up your hair porosity, though your hair type is also really important. There are some people's hair where using the sponge isn't good for them. Some people want to use the towel method. Some people use their hand. Some people use a tennis racket. Some people use a brush. Some people use a comb. People use many different ways just to get the semi-freeform lock look, or just a type of lock. I would label semi-freeform specifically because you're manipulating it in some form instead of allowing it to mat up and lock naturally. I'm not gonna do freeform because I want mine to actually look decent. I don't want to look like I came from the slums, like I came from the woods, the wilderness with a bear and a stick. I want it to at least look a bit maintenance without it looking like the traditional locks. I want mine to have like that afro-y type of lock look. That's what I was going for, so that's why I recut my hair. I'm explaining too much though. I just know because I've already done this before, so I'm explaining some of these things. Though your hair type is important. They say you don't need to. I hear some people say you don't need to comb out your hair before you do this. Me, I choose to, because the first time I did this, the roots were very tight because I was pressing hard with the sponge, and it basically made the roots uncomfortable. Sometimes I couldn't pull my hair back without it not hurting, but it would feel uncomfortable. So I don't want my roots to ever be tight ever again. I don't want that. I don't like that. Makes it uncomfortable, makes me uncomfortable and a little bit irritated and angry. And because it's an uncomfortable thing you're dealing with. So I choose to use or pick out my hair from the roots specifically. Well, I've already picked it out from the tips as well, because I don't want my hair to feel uncomfortable, pretty much is what I'm getting to. Now you could do it in any way. You could do it counterclockwise, you could do it clockwise. I'm doing it clockwise just to see how that goes. Whenever I first did this, I started doing it counterclockwise, and you pretty much stay in the same direction all around the head. So if you do it clockwise, then you have to do it clockwise all around the head, even with your left hand and from the back. It might be uncomfortable for you at first, though understand that that's something you're going to get used to the point to where even whenever you aren't using the sponge anymore and whenever you're just twisting it, you're still going to remember that same exact pattern, and basically it's going to become a habit to where you're never going to forget it pretty much. But at first it might be a bit confusing for you. You just gotta have to stay in the same direction. You're gonna get used to it. Don't worry about it at all. And you just pretty much spiral in circles all around the hair, all around the antennas. I mean, something like this. And you could probably already tell that it's doing something to the antennas. They're probably looking a bit more spiky already. And you could choose to moisturize. I would suggest, as long as your hair isn't dry, then you could do it as soon as you wake up. Just have some type of head covering or something that doesn't strip the hair of its oils or anything like that. I use the spray bottle to moisturize the hair a bit, though I already have conditioner in there, or leave-in conditioner from like the other day, so that I don't know, I just wanted to make sure. I didn't want my hair to just be completely dry. Now don't make sure it's wet. If you do it when it's wet, it's probably not gonna work really at all. I would only suggest doing it when it's wet, whenever you're in the shower or something like that, though I'll have to show you my shower method that I used to do with the sponge whenever the hair was short enough to actually do it. At some point, your hair or your antennas are going to get too long for you to use the sponge, and you're probably going to have somebody twist your hair pretty much, because if it's longer than under your eyebrows, or at some point like longer than like 4 inches or something like that, then you're gonna need to actually twist your hair instead of using a sponge. They say the sponge is best for like maybe 1 inch to 4 inches, something like that. But yeah, you can pretty much already tell for a bit that my hair is starting to get a bit more spiky. I think that's pretty cool. You pretty much just go in circles. Now, based off of what I've seen, everybody just goes in circles all around. Me, I kind of do it in sections. Sometimes if I'll stay in one area for a bit. And I'm doing this pretty lightly. I'm not pressing a lot on the hair. I'll do best not to do that. I'll apply some pressure later on once they start to form more, though at the start of it, I'm just gonna slowly progress to applying pressure, but like not right now. I'm still just gonna allow the antennas to coil up inside of the little holes from here. And when it comes to the sponges, you have different sizes. This is one thing I forgot to mention. You can have small, there's like small holes for if you want skinnier locks. There's a medium size for medium locks. And I got the jumbo ones. I'm not exactly sure. I just know I don't want my locks to be thinny minis. I want my locks to be pretty strong, and I hear that the more thinner your locks are, the more easier or the more susceptible it is to breakage, and I don't want to have that risk, and I don't think the look of small locks would look good on my face. Maybe it could, I just have no interest in actually doing that, so I chose to get the bigger size hole sponge. Now, some people say that the sponge isn't good for the antennas at all, which could make sense. I get it. It's a sponge. You're running a sponge on your antennas, so it wouldn't surprise me if there's some type of breakage. So at that point, I would really just suggest making sure your hair is at least moisturized while you're doing this. If you're not going to try any other method, if you're not going to try the towel, a microfiber towel specifically, because if you use a regular towel, all the lint is going to get into your locks. And one thing you need to understand about getting semi-freeform locks, or whenever you are starting your sponge process, lint is going to get in your hair a lot. So you either need to have some type of head covering, a bonnet possibly specifically, so your hair doesn't necessarily just mat down like crazy if you were to use a do-rag or just something else made for locks. And if you don't choose to do that, you can also have I think it's a satin pillowcase or something like that. Something that's like slippery, just doesn't have a lot of lint. You could use silk. I heard silk is expensive, though I'm pretty sure there's like a fox or a faux silk material that you could get. Polyester probably wouldn't be bad either. Something that just isn't gonna, like even like the shirt I'm wearing right now, this is made out of polyester. Like this is something I'll be comfortable laying my head in. Basically, you need to make sure nothing's touching your antennas except for the sponge and your hands whenever they are washed, because whenever you're touching everything else in the world and you put that all on your antennas, you're making your antennas dirty. So you need to make sure you're not really just touching it throughout the day unless your hands are washed, or if you have your sponge, because that's one of the things that's important about sponging your hair and getting semi-freeform locks. And just antennas in general, even having an afro, I still have to necessarily be concerned with the same exact thing, because because the hair type I have specifically kind of grabs inanimate objects wildly. Like even my girl's hair gets stuck to my hair because she has straight hair, because my hair is curly, so it's going to just grab things. It's like a sponge. Like you're pretty much rubbing a sponge on a sponge. Like this is almost a sponge in a way, because water gets trapped in there. Sometimes almost I got like a sponge head pretty much. And I guess at the edges, you're gonna use the bottom part to go in circles. At some point, you can start to apply pressure, just like not at the start of it. You want to get your antennas to coil up first, get them a bit more defined, and then slowly you can apply some pressure. Though, as long as you aren't like pressing it down and scrubbing like crazy, like if you were actually using it like a sponge to clean something, because you're going to begin, it'll make them form pretty quickly. Though at the same time, you're going to, you're pretty much pressing it down to the roots. So pretty much how it did for me. No matter how much I tried to pick out my hair because I started to do it too late, basically it would always look like I almost had a retwist like almost 3 weeks ago. No matter what I did, because I locked my antennas too close to the root. Probably one of the causes was because I pressed too hard with the sponge on top of my antennas. So that's what created that, and that's part of the reason why I don't want to do that again, and why I still choose to use the pick, because I want the afro type of antenna or semi freeform lock look. I don't want the traditional lock look. But yeah, that's pretty much all I can think of for right now. Again, if I missed anything, let me know. You're just gonna see me sponging for the rest of the time. That's pretty much all I'm gonna be doing. This is how it looks like right now, just to give you more of a close-up. Now, don't expect them to be so defined at first. This is a process you have to do, so you're gonna have to continue sponging your hair. At some point, whenever you can, you're gonna start twisting them whenever you find coils to actually twist more. And then you're just gonna slowly keep doing the same thing pretty much. You're gonna keep sponging your hair. They're just gonna keep getting more defined. At some point, you're gonna be able to point out which little coil you can start twisting, because it's its own little lock or dread. And a lot of them are going to be clumped up together and get stuck together. At some point, you gotta learn how to separate them. Though you have to be careful, because if you separate, make sure they aren't thin. As long as they aren't thin, then that's okay. Because the more they grow, at some point that thin little lock is just gonna get weaker and weaker, and it's probably gonna break off. Like I had one of my locks break off because it was too thin, and I over twisted my antennas. Like I twisted them way too freaking much. Though, what else? And maybe you aren't supposed to do it when it's moist, because a lot of them are clumped up together right now, because the hair is probably a bit too I'm not sure if malleable is the word. Okay, so that's why I would suggest mainly doing it in like certain like little sections, and then raising it up from the head instead of dragging it. Dragging it probably creates that like look of them clumping together. So if you choose to, you could just experiment doing them in certain sections, doing it in the circle motion, of course, like something like this for a bit, instead of just going over it for a couple of seconds. And then go over to the next. Instead of dragging it, you grab it and then put it to the next part, grab it, and then, or take it from the hair and then go like this, instead of just dragging it. Either way works pretty much. So this is just so you can get a focus on more points instead of just going all around crazy. This is pretty much how the antennas are starting to look. They're looking a bit more spiky, mainly on this left side instead of the right. But again, you gotta do it more around the whole head. And again, it's going to take some time. You have to be patient if you want your semi-freeforms to lock up pretty much. There's probably a certain look that you're going for, so you probably have to do more research if you don't want the afro-y type of look. That's why at some point I'd still going to pick from the roots, because I don't want it to I don't want to lock to the roots. I want to always be able to see my new growth pretty much. Because right now, like I can't really just pick it all the way through, because the sponge pretty much already started coiling up my hair. So now it's knotted up. I won't be able to pick it out fully like I would with my afro hair. I'm just gonna keep using the sponge on the top and keep using the pick in the roots so I don't so the roots can breathe for one, and so I don't create that same look that I did the first time that made my locks uncomfortable. So if I didn't say it already, let me know if I missed something. I'm okay with feedback. It makes me learn and I can help you as well. I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next one.